Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting live Spoilercast. I'm your host, Captain Logan, and today, finally, we are tackling Batman Arkham Knight, which came out half a year ago now. DanzNewz and I have been trying to get this together forever, and we've had enough time now for all of us to play it through at least twice, at least the main story, and so we're going to chat about it for you live, and if you're watching right now, thanks so much for joining us, sure appreciate it, and thanks for watching afterwards if you're doing that. And let me go ahead and introduce the panel. First of all, it is indeed DanzNewz.
Hi! Hey, guys.
And the terrifying but magnanimous Steve Baxi.
And this is not the real Steve Baxi, it's a life model decoy.
Ah.
That's not appropriate for this.
I don't know, Batman's played robots before. It's convincing.
We had a few requests from people to bring Steve on this as well, because Steve's played through the game really thoroughly, and the three of us have done a lot of things together now, and boy, I love the dynamic the three of us have had on a lot of Batman stuff, and so it is a pleasure to have both of you guys here with me to talk about Arkham Knight. I want to start, as we usually do with Spoilercasts, going around robin and doing a best thing, worst thing. Obviously, with a video game, and with this video game especially, because it's so ginormous, we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about on a lot of different fronts. It won't just be storytelling and visuals and acting and such. We've also got the whole gameplay nuisance to have to deal with, because it's a video game. So, but with any aspect of the game, you guys feel free to pick the best thing and the worst thing for you, and we'll start with DanzNewz.
Best thing, worst thing. Okay, so best thing, I really enjoyed the, although it doesn't fully make sense, but I really enjoyed the whole Joker blood infection thing. I like the idea of Joker being this, like, literal infection. Like, I like that, because that's what he kind of is, but in a physical form. So I just, that aspect of the story, just narratively, is really, really, really great. I like the internal struggle throughout the entire game, and I thought it played well with the other elements of the story. And worst thing, this is kind of a nitpick, but the whole Batmobile thing, I like the Batmobile, but you're killing everybody you run into. Like, you're going 80 miles per hour while boosting. Yeah, they get electroshocked, but you're electrocuting in and hitting them at 80 miles per hour. It does not make any sense. They're all dead. You can also just blow up cars, like, with like unconscious bodies next to them, and you're expected to not do any shrapnel damage or anything to them. So that's a minor nitpick, but I understand the point of it. But, you know, it's a video game.
Dan, I wanted the Batman Begins thing so bad. 0 casualties.
Exactly. No, that's not possible.
Steve, best thing, worst thing.
Best thing, worst thing. I think it's appropriate to say that this is a really good bad video game, in that the gameplay stuff I enjoy a lot, and it's just the story that falls apart. The best thing about this game for me is that I think just with the mechanics, it's the most fun I've had with any of the Arkham games. Going around doing, like, fear multi-takedowns, how big the city is, how many different types of thugs you're able to take out, the fact that you can use Batman's sidekicks in the middle of a fight and throw people into objects and utilize objects in the middle of a fight. I think all of that is refined really, really well, and so you really feel like Batman aside from when you're murdering people with the Batmobile. In this case, you're like Dark Knight Returns Batman. But the worst part, I think, is the title character, the Arkham Knight, Jason Todd, because there's so much potential for that to be genius, and it makes no sense by the end, and it's really, really anticlimactic.
I agree with all that.
Yeah.
My best thing is the ginormous scope of this thing. It's just so big, and there's so much to do, and and there's a nice variety of a lot of different kinds of gameplay. Early on, when I was doing my playthrough, I was complaining a little bit about the Batmobile combat, and it's just not my cup of tea, and I thought that it was a little bit intrusive, and it was just the game was making such a big deal out of, look, we got a Batmobile, and we've got all, you know, this new combat thing, and let's keep contriving reasons for you to have to use it. And after a while, I started to really enjoy that, actually, and was glad it was there. But like I said, just the variety of gameplay is really great, and I like that there is so much for your initial, I guess when it first came out, $60. It's much cheaper now. And but then there's a lot of DLC, and we'll talk about some of that later on. And some of it's great, some of it's not so great. But I like that the DLC add-on stuff doesn't feel like stuff that should have been in the game in the first place. It really does feel like extra material, and there's just so much bang for your buck in the game, and it's taking me forever to get through. I am currently 60% through, and I did nothing but play this game last weekend in preparation for this and building footage for my gameplay. Finally getting back to that, and it's nuts. It's taking forever. Anyway, worst thing is definitely I'm with Steve. I don't know how to pick anything other than I want the story so badly to work as well as it either thinks it is or is trying to dupe me into thinking that it is. I'm not sure. But the thing that's really unfortunate is I'm playing through it and it's really grabbing me, and it's got me thinking about all kinds of aspects of Batman psychology, and it also feels like kind of a natural place to go after Arkham City. Hey, look, it's Jackson Rasco.
Jackson.
Hi, Jackson Rasco.
Hi. Sorry.
We've got our, that's all right. We've got our official chat moderator, Jackson Rasco. So, and I didn't mention this earlier, but folks watching live, feel free to leave comments in the YouTube comment stream for Rasco anytime during the show. Questions and comments about the game that you'd like us to answer and respond to. If you want to talk amongst yourselves, you can use the blue chat, but please just use the stream to ask questions for us to answer. But anyway, yeah, like the idea of doing a game where Batman has to really finally grapple with how much of what has happened to Gotham might be his fault, to the point of it affecting him more personally with the people that he's dragged into his war on crime, is a really natural place to go. Although I wish there had been more stuff with the Bat family in prior games setting us up for that. And I'm somewhat saying that retroactively because there was no knowing what exactly they were going to do, for this particular game. But when you get to the end, it's got a lot of the same problems I had with, I hate to say, Dark Knight Rises. Just a lot of questionable villain motivation stuff and things that seem a lot more interesting than they really are. But the difference with this and that is that with this game, there wasn't anything about it early on that made me go, I don't know about this. Like, it really had me from the very beginning. And Dan's got a cat.
This is Fisher.
Fisher, what did you think of Arkham Knight?
What did you think of it, Fisher? All right.
See, I wish I was that good at brevity. So anyway, that's my best thing, worst thing. Rasco, feel free to jump in a little bit here and there because I know you played the game too. What was your favorite thing and least favorite thing from Arkham Knight?
Does it have to be story related, or can
it doesn't?
Okay.
It doesn't.
I guess my favorite thing about the game from a kind of technical aspect was the implementation of the Batmobile. I thought worked really well. I do think that it was maybe a little bit overused, but I do like I thought the Batmobile it played really well, and it wasn't like cumbersome or anything for me to drive personally. And it was just really cool to have a Batman game where you can go from gliding to being in your Batmobile, and you can launch out all that stuff that I think anyone who really likes Batman has probably dreamed of being able to do in a video game. And then my biggest negative is that I just going into the game, I already knew who the Arkham Knight was, and I thought it was too obvious in the game, but maybe that's just because I already knew who it was going to be going in, just from just putting pieces together in my head. So those are my two things.
Well, segueing from that, Rasco, I think that's a wonderful place to start because Arkham Knight is the title of the game, and a character that ultimately is not nearly as compelling as I think it could have been. I thought it was really counterintuitive for your big reveal for a bad guy, and I'm with Rasco. It was too obvious too early on, and I was resisting it. I was like, "There's no way that's who it is."
It doesn't make sense. I was like, please don't be Red Hood, please don't be Red Hood, please don't be Red Hood, and it just, yeah.
From the moment that people knew that it was going to be a character that we were familiar with, a lot of people thought that that's who it was going to be, and like I said, just all the hints early on, I was like, once it turns out to be that, I was like, do you think we're stupid? You know, it kind of felt that way. But then, for folks that aren't familiar with Jason Todd, it might have been more of a surprise. But then, that's the big awkward thing, right? Is that background is not established prior to the game, and is hardly established in the game. And I just found that really super problematic. What did you guys think about that?
It's one of those things that the Arkham franchise has always had, but it's much worse here, where there's too much of this is a new canon and this is an assumed canon, where Batman is Man-Bat for the very first time, but he's already got this long, dangerous history with Ra's al Ghul. He's already lost Jason Todd, but at the same time, there's all these other side characters like Hush that he's never met before, and so. The game doesn't seem to know if it's for people that just like the Arkham universe, people who like Batman in general, or people that just like video games. And it tries to bounce around and juggle those things, especially with Red Hood. And I guess they're trying to capitalize on the popularity of the animated movie a little bit in certain areas, because they lift dialogue straight from that movie in certain scenes with the Arkham Knight, and it's really, really obvious. And I wonder how much of this was just they didn't know who to make the Arkham Knight, but they wanted it to be a familiar character, and that's all they could think of.
Yeah, it seemed really weird because
clever.
Yeah. Well, it seems just the weirdest thing was they made such a huge deal about DC giving them permission to make an original character, and that's what made me resist the whole Red Hood thing so much, and what made me so disappointed. Now, I liked the actual. I got goosebumps when the actual mask cracked off. He took it off, and then it turned red. That was a geek out moment. But it still is just met with that. I did not want it to be that. And once they started planting those little tiny seeds, it was just like, no, please don't go that direction. Please make it somebody who I'm actually going to be surprised it is. But they weren't setting anything up otherwise. Like it wouldn't make sense unless it was somebody like already a pre-established character from the Batman universe, not necessarily the Arkham universe, because I couldn't even think of anybody who it could have been outside of Red Hood in the end. So it's disappointing.
And I think part of it is also just some of the Jason Todd stuff they do is really clever, and I really like. Like the flashbacks that we get where Jason has been with Joker for like 6 months. Joker has broken him down psychologically to where he calls Joker Master and Sir, and Joker kills him right before he gives away Batman's identity. I thought all that stuff was really, really well handled. Because my favorite thing about Jason Todd in the comics, I hate that character, by the way, but the thing I like about him in the comics is Grant Morrison turns him into the Joker. He turns him into Dick Grayson and every other Robin's Joker. And they deal with him the same way Batman deals with Joker. And this game was doing that really, really well to a point. But it's more of just this concept works over the execution actually working.
Well, and how convenient is it that he's just flashing back to all that for our benefit at the time that he is?
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, okay, there's reason for him to be thinking about Jason Todd, certainly, because of what's happened to Barbara Gordon, and the idea, I think, is supposed to be that he's thinking about people in his war on crime that he has influenced and affected, and he's worried that he's ruined their lives. And I do really like the idea that ends up mattering more to him than the Arkham idea engulfing the entire city the way it has. Like that's his breaking point, is the people that he cares about that it affects, because now we're humanizing Batman. Now we're dealing with while he's afraid that he's as insane as the Joker, and maybe even the same thing as the Joker, and has the Joker literally and figuratively in him. So that's a really cool idea, and doing that in the game where Batman finally changes and has a character arc beyond I refuse to change. That's what it's always been about before. Both the other games, linearly and then even Origins, it's that it's that both Batman and Captain America thing of I'm not going to change. It's all about my moral ideology, and no matter what happens, he has the exact opposite of the ends justifies the means kind of mentality. And this is supposed to be Batman finally decides to do to change and do something. I like those ideas. Execution-wise, it's real clunky and kind of all over the place. May I also say that the writing is really, really super inconsistent. Sometimes it's genius, sometimes it's super juvenile.
Yeah. There are points in the game. I think you talk about this a lot when you go through your playthrough, but the game has this weird, inconsistent sense of who we're supposed to be following. Like, we're supposed to be inside Batman's head for most of this franchise, but then there are just really convenient moments where we're not, just for the
I hate that.
mechanic and stuff. And one of my issues is, we talk about the Arkham Knight thing being too obvious, and one of the rationalizations I had early on, because I really loved this game at first, but one of the rationalizations I had is, well, it's not that Batman's a stupid detective, because he really is throughout this whole game.
He's really, yeah.
My original thought was, it's not that he's stupid, it's that he's in denial about Jason, so it's as obvious as it is from the Joker's side of things. And I'm like, okay, that kind of works, but what Joker is doing and how much of the Joker is in him is never really made clear. And then the game just likes to randomly switch perspectives, like when you're playing as Hush for no reason, or you're the cop for no reason, or you're following Gordon for the end of that weird Nightfall Protocol thing at the end.
Just to kind of shock the audience, like we're going to be surprised that Batman's still alive.
Yeah, like the game just likes those shock value moments, and it completely breaks the psychology it's trying to build. The first game, great. Even Arkham City had this to a degree, but much lesser than this one.
Yeah, I mean, of all of them, and I'm even going to include Origins in that, which I'm kind of surprised to say, this is the one that does the worst job at integrating story and gameplay and making making a case for this can only be told in this medium. Because for a really good story-driven game, I want to feel like I couldn't experience it. I couldn't appreciate it as well as I do if it wasn't an interactive experience, if I wasn't actually playing as the character, the second person you. And I have that in Arkham Asylum, and then as it goes along, it's less and less that. But the problem is ambition. The bigger you make these, the harder that is to manage. Would you guys agree with the argument that all the other three Arkham games, there's no reason they couldn't have been told in comic book form over this? Like there's nothing about it being a video game that for the story really enhances. I mean, I think City gets closer, but and I mean, gameplay elements, there's a lot of stuff I really, really love, but does it for the story, does it have to be a video game? And that's what I love so much about Arkham Asylum, is that I couldn't imagine it in any other medium.
There was clearly points when they tried to do a similar thing to like the weird kind of like scarecrow hallucinations that you get in the first game, and but it's kind of like that where when your Batman goes into the cell, and then there's that like weird thing where I forget exactly what happens, but he's like in the cell, and then like you can eventually get out of the cell, and you're supposed to force Tim Drake to go into the cell. That was like a weird thing where it's like they're trying to do the same things that they did in previous Arkham games, but it's almost like they like felt like, oh well, we have to do this because this is like a staple almost of these games, is that we do like a weird like psychological like what's going on type of moment in all of the games.
By the way, I couldn't decide physically in reality what in the world where I actually was when that was going on, because you come back out and then it's like Batman go in the cell, and I'm like, have I been in the cell the whole time? Was I standing around and he didn't think to say, hey, why are you just standing here? Like, I did not understand what was going on.
I think part of the problem there, and maybe I'm not sure if you guys will agree with this or not, but I think it's because the game used the Joker to cheat.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like the best part about the hallucinations in the previous games is the hallucination would happen, and Batman would move around, and you would have to make choices that interact with the hallucination. So it was very much a gameplay thing. Here, it's just you move around, and Joker tells you things, and that's not the same thing. You could have just made that into a movie.
Yeah, and I find myself realizing that I'm overthinking it a lot when I start to realize that the Joker is often being used as a device to help you figure out where you're supposed to go, and then I'm realizing that there's no way he would know things I wouldn't know because he's in my head. So
maybe that's
he's
Batman just being a great detective, and it's his subconscious plugging in to the Joker. You guys are crapping all over Batman being a detective.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute because he's not that good of a detective in this for the most part, Dan. But what's hilarious about that is that you're basically saying that his detective skills allow him to see beyond the physical. The human acuity, because you'll walk up to a thing and there's the Joker, and it's like, oh, thanks for helping me figure out where I'm supposed to go. Person in my head.
Don't that too much. That's what Grant Morrison does, and it's genius.
Oh, okay. Well, now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed that. I mean, I thought from a game. That's the thing is that I've got two brains on this. Like from a gameplay perspective, that's all really smart and sophisticated, and you're using that element to in a creative way help the player figure out where to go instead of just having arrows everywhere and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that are if you just discount the story, there's a lot of really great stuff with all of that. But
you know, the story and you discount the fact that Batman is a great detective, it doesn't kill people, then it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute too. Batman should have at the very least had suspicions of who it might be. He's on the wrong trail the whole time, and what's really funny to me is he doesn't even try to figure it out on his own. He's just like, Alfred, figure out who the Alfred Knight, who the Arkham Knight is.
Wouldn't that have been a twist? Alfred was the Arkham Knight.
And he's like, I'm the Alfred Knight.
Oh man, you're fired.
But I thought that was hilarious, where he'd be like, Alfred, try to look into people that have military backgrounds, and then we find out that the person that it is doesn't probably have that. And a number of other things where he's constantly like look into people that I put into Arkham Asylum. Nope, it's not one of those either. And like his detective work doesn't end up getting and like because they want it to be a big giant reveal. So he's like, what? No, and you're like, okay, yes, he thinks that Jason Todd is dead, but Batman in the world he lives in would think of impossible possibilities, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially after the last game with that whole Ra's al Ghul challenge where he was like traveling through a demon dimension and stuff. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility at all. He was literally flying around where he was in the middle of space.
Well,
yes.
That's a really good point you're making. Yeah, Steve, somebody in the comments asked if we know why Paul Dini didn't write this, and I think we probably would be remiss if we didn't talk about that.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So, go ahead, talk about that.
Okay, well, Paul Dini right now is working on his own Batman original graphic novel, which deals with a personal trauma he suffered. But between Arkham Knight and Arkham City, that guy just got really sick of writing Batman because that's all he was doing, and so he just didn't come back for that reason, as far as I can tell. He hasn't talked about it a lot. I don't even think he's played the game yet, and I'm not even sure if he was consulted on or anything. But he just got really tired of doing Arkham City and Batman stuff, and he wrote a Zatanna Black Canary graphic novel in the meantime that was really good. He's done some like random work with different companies in between, but nothing Batman related.
I didn't know that. I had heard that he was fired and that they just didn't want to have to pay him, and that it was cheaper to go with in-house writers. Is there no truth to that?
There might be some truth to that, but I do know like Dini for a fact was even in the middle of Arkham City, he just didn't really care by the end. So it might have been he didn't fight to stay on the project either.
Interesting.
Well, Steve,
he's kind of a strange guy because he's got a history of that even in Batman the Animated Series, where like there'd be points where he wrote an episode and he clearly didn't care.
I don't know, man. In my opinion, in my mind, that tells me how good of a writer he is. That I loved Arkham City as much as I did, and he phoned it in by the end. Like,
I guess part of it is just writing and making a video game is just so much more of a long process than writing a comic or doing a Batman animated series episode. So even if you love the material, if you're working on it for like 4 years, you get sick of it. Like I worked on Age of Ultron for 3 months and I'm sick of it. So I guess it happens.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Dan, I want to know what you thought this game did. If there's anything that you thought gameplay mechanics wise, this game did better than what came before or improved on.
I mean, one of the bigger things, especially more so recently as I go back and play it, I find that kind of what one of your fears was about introducing the Batmobile into the Arkham universe was, I remember in City you were saying you can fly around so fast. What's the point of having the Batmobile? I think once you get all the upgrades and stuff, I never ride in the Batmobile anymore ever unless it's required.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, the lean on the Batmobile is just like as much as I enjoy driving around in the Batmobile, it gets kind of just superfluous after a while. They really have to just create instances where you all of a sudden need the Batmobile for some reason. And I don't know. I struggle back and forth. I like the Batmobile, but I also don't like the Batmobile. And there was one point when I started playing the game, I got annoyed when people would crap on the Batmobile. I'm like, it's pretty good. But then, like, in retrospect, it's just, now that we've had half a year to analyze the actual, like, enjoyment of the gameplay. I mean, I appreciate the the changes up in combat that they've done, adding guys that'll charge at you randomly, like that. There's one of those guys in every single group who they'll just randomly charge at you, and that breaks it up a little bit. So I think the variety they've added has been pretty good. Gadget-wise, I think they've added some new interesting gadgets. I like the voice synthesizer. I don't know why he couldn't have had that in any of the other games. I guess he just realized all of a sudden that he could synthesize people's voices and use it. They completely underutilized the freeze thing again. And if you don't know where the freeze thing is, you'll never get it in the game. It's randomly just in the Batcave.
In the game? I didn't know it was in the game.
It's just sitting on a table at the amusement park bat layer.
Are you serious?
It's just sitting on the table. If you don't know it, they never call to it. You just have to walk up and pick it up, and you'll have it. And you can have it as early as you're in there. So that's kind of a weird thing that I didn't understand.
I have the same thing that I did with City, and of course the history of it's weird because he's got stuff in Origins that he had in City.
The glue bomb
doesn't have. Yeah, and where was the glue bomb in this game? I was just kind of surprised we didn't have that. But then that could sometimes be tedious, so I was almost glad that I didn't have to deal with it. The bits where you have to make a glue thing, or is it the freeze gun where you have to make the freezy things in the water and then stand on them? I forget, but
well, it's the glue thing and the freeze thing.
Oh, okay.
Games. The glue thing in Origins, freeze thing in City.
I was glad we didn't have to do that, but anyway, you've got that thing where you've got gadgets that where you don't have gadgets that you had in City, and then you have to get them later, and I don't know why I just couldn't have had them in the first place, especially since, like, why don't you have the electric thing the whole game?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. You've got this brand new souped up bat suit that looks like it weighs 6,000 pounds. It's got like by the way, I know I'm all over the place. We have gone really overkill with that bat suit, right? Like it is insane just how armored it is and how many
pieces and
it's a Tony Stark suit. It's an Iron Man suit. I mean, it's fun, but it's ridiculous. And then that thing should have gadgets all over, like in it. Like things should open it up and you pull out the electric.
People should just get electrocuted when they punch it. That's it. They can't touch you anytime ever.
Why
hasn't he done that?
Not? Yeah. Well, and then here's a question. See, that's a good question. Is he too overpowered? Of course, there are a lot of places in the game where it's challenging. You don't feel overpowered, but shouldn't he kind of be?
He should be.
Yeah.
What is the point of Batman ever getting in the car?
He should be the car. His suit should be able to just sprout wheels in the back, and he lay down and just roll across Gotham.
What, he's like that robot duck from DuckTales, from Darkwing Duck? Or no, that is DuckTales. Yeah. But like it's a drone, right? Like, why does he ever have to get in it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do like the aspect of, although there's no point to it, if you're fighting people on the street near the Batmobile, you can do the move where you punch them, uppercut them, and then it'll shoot one of the non-lethal rounds at it and knock the people out. But you could just hit LB and hop in the Batmobile and then just hold left trigger and then just go take everybody out.
There are places in the game where it makes you do that.
Yeah. But yeah,
so that's hilarious. And it's also really inconsistent with range, where it's like the Batmobile's getting too far away from me, and then there's other places where you have to get really far away from Batman, and the range keeps changing. But anyway, these are nitpicky complaints that I'm raising because I think they're hilarious. Like, the game's still fun. Steve, I love what you said at the beginning. That this is a really good bad game. Story-wise, got huge problems, but I can't stop playing it. I mean, the replay value is fantastic.
The AR challenges this time around I particularly love. Just the amount of things you can do using different characters, the racetracks, the hybrid tracks, the Predator missions. There is one called Endless Night where you have a 5-minute timer and you start with 4 guys and the Predator mission just keeps going and going and going and gets harder and harder and harder, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, just for variety all the way around.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, if you're into that kind, I haven't tackled too many of the AR stuff. I do. I not that I want to direct this conversation, but moving on to DLC stuff. Just talking about the vast amount of content. You have the Arkham stories. You also have the Season of Infamy DLC that came out recently. I've found those Arkham episodes or whatever to be incredibly weak. There's hardly any narrative value to them. It's pretty much just gameplay segments. Even with the Matter of Family Batgirl DLC, that was probably one of the better ones, but at the same time, just redundant. Not much added to the story. It was cool to see the Joker and Batgirl and Robin and all that interaction and stuff like that, but I don't think it was worth an hour of my time to go around and just do random, just like extra chore stuff, running around disabling stuff or whatever. Disarming bombs, and most of them are only like 20 minutes, maybe. So just length is not that satisfying either way. The only thing that's been really actually meaty and good that I haven't fully finished, done everything but the freeze thing, for Season of Infamy, that's actually been an amazing step. I don't know if it was that I don't know if Rocksteady was directly involved with these DLC things. I know. Warner Brothers Montreal the people who did Arkham Origins did the Matter of Family DLC, but I don't know how involved they are. But it's been really weak and disappointing.
It's weird because you mentioned there's very little story to those, but every bit of story that they throw in just makes it worse. I mentioned to Cap that maybe he wants to play some of those before we go through, and I say that because they fill in gaps for the other characters, particularly what happens after the game's over, and it hurts those characters even more. Like there's the Robin one, a flip of a coin, where you're taking down Two-Face thugs, and you find out that Barbara and Tim get married, and Tim Drake in this universe is just Dick Grayson, and I can't stand that. But they do that all throughout the game, and it really informs some of the themes by the end, because that mission is about Tim turning into Batman, which doesn't make any sense because he's nothing like Tim Drake, and we get so little of him doing anything that I don't understand what she's worried about. It's the same thing with the Nightwing mission, where it's got lots of fun banter and it builds on his respect for Batman, but the story is just so flimsy. There's only 1 or 2 token lines in that whole thing that are enjoyable.
I think talking about kind of just not making full sense, or I'm really disappointed in the Red Hood Arkham episode.
Yeah.
Black Mask has been incredibly shafted this entire Arkham universe series.
Yeah.
And then he just gets randomly killed at the end of that DLC.
Oh, I hadn't finished that yet. He gets killed then? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Arkham.
Why would you shaft him? People have complained so hard about how they sold Origins on Black Mask. They didn't do anything with him, and he ended up.
And then it turns out to be the Joker.
A red herring. Yeah, and then they kill him, and it's like. Jeez.
Well, I mean, who knows if he's actually dead? But Red Hood just straight up shoots him at the end, and he's just been such a wimp this entire series for a character I enjoyed so much in the things I have seen him in.
And same with Two-Face, right? Like Arkham City was sold on Two-Face, and he got shafted. In this game, all he does is rob banks and gets shafted. This universe doesn't seem to know how to do anything except Joker. Because even Scarecrow is shafted for this game.
Penguin was done all right in Arkham City, and in this one he's kind of weak. But like, yeah, Two-Face,
creepy in that. Yeah, they did some great stuff with him in City.
Two-Face, you take him down so easily. I think the Two-Face, the Firefly missions, stuff like that is it's redundant, just busy work, gameplay stuff. The Firefly stuff was exactly the same every single time.
Yeah.
The Two-Face stuff was nearly the same every time, and it was kind of tedious. And like,
it was just a challenge map. That's all it was.
And then you get, you disarm the bomb, and then you have to stand around and wait forever to close the door, and then in
the end, Two-Face is just like a thug, like anybody else. You take down Two-Face like a thug, like anybody else in that mission. Yeah, he's just walking around. He's walking around with a gun at the end, and then I just walked up behind him like Two-Face, and then I just silent takedowned him. Like that was it.
Somebody left a comment on my most recent video playing through this game and said, I'm in my playthrough, I'm in the Cloudburst section, and somebody said, I hadn't noticed this, somebody said, you notice how you're in the cloud and there's bank alarms going off, so Two-Face is still robbing banks in the middle of the cloudburst.
In the middle of the Cloudburst. He doesn't care, he's got a schedule to keep.
Apparently he has a mask that works past 10 seconds.
The worst boss fight was the Deathstroke boss fight, because I was expecting for them to build on what they did in Arkham Origins, because I actually really liked that boss fight in Arkham Origins. I thought it was
tough.
Yeah, and it was just interesting. I don't know how many boss fights I've done where it's like a hand-to-hand combat thing where you're kind of got a pattern and stuff like that. And I wanted them to make that better. But it's just the exact same thing over again. And while I do like the Batmobile, I do agree with people that think that they shoehorned it into the gameplay way too much in places where the game would have been much better if they had tried to be more creative and done something else with the ground combat instead of the Batmobile combat.
A character known for his expertise in hand-to-hand combat gets taken down from a drone. I mean, that's
That I was when I was playing that, I was so excited for the build up because they were building up to this big confrontation, and then that's really a serious trend in these.
And he gets taken down like a punk, right? Like he just gets out of the tank and he's down.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It didn't even take Batman half a second to knock him out.
Yeah.
There's some people in the comments talking about a reference that I missed. There's a store called Talkman's Clocks, apparently, and I didn't see that. So there's apparently a clocking reference, and somebody Soundwave said that he would have loved clocking to actually be in the game. And yeah, I was kind of looking for him. I thought maybe this would be the game when we finally get clocking in the Arkham universe, because hey, we've had now in Arrow a really super creepy and awesome clocking, and there's no reason you couldn't have made him really scary in this. And everybody knows how much I love clocking, and I really wanted Arkham clocking. We get frickin' Firefly, but no clocking. Come on.
And this is Firefly's second appearance in these games.
Yeah, that's true.
And does anybody else feel like DC is pushing Firefly on us really hard right now? It's like we've got these secondary kind of nothing villains it's like just because it's part of Batman's rogues gallery doesn't immediately make it interesting. Like Batman has a really like the best rogues gallery. Just because somebody's in his rogues gallery doesn't make them interesting or cool.
I don't know about you, but I'm waiting for the Killer Moth Batman Arkham game. Just wait.
Oh yeah, that's gotta happen. I'm surprised. But see, Killer Moth is the other one that I feel like keeps getting thrown in our face all the time. Like that new that new animated Batman movie. I haven't watched it yet, but when I looked at the back of the box, it was like Killer Moth and Firefly, and I'm like, stop doing that! Quit pushing it in my face. It's like, is anybody looking at that going, yes, more Firefly?
DC can make a hilarious movie with Killer Moth and Firefly as a team up, and it's like a comedy. That would be so
Moth
funny.
to the flame.
Yeah. And then Killer Moth is subservient to him, and he just keeps following around everywhere. And Firefly's like, leave me alone, stop it. Hey, Rasco.
Where they do that, where Penguin's got his a little villain A team, and Killer Moth is the getaway driver.
there's a bunch of other stuff we need to talk about, but Rascal, why don't you go ahead and throw out 2 or 3 questions, and then let's tackle the ending, both the regular ending and the secret surprise 100% ending. We'll do that in a little bit, but let's answer a few questions first. Go ahead, Rascal.
Okay, well, there's like a ton of different questions asking about like what would you think of this guy as the Arkham Knight or this guy. A lot of people want to know like who we would like to see as the Arkham Knight or who we thought would have been a better Arkham Knight. A lot of people say like Damian, and a lot of people say who's the other person they said? Oh, Thomas Wayne Jr.
Once again, my problem with anybody else is kind of the same thing that we had here, and this still could have been a lot more compelling if we just had delved into the backstory more. But the problem is nobody's been seated in previous, like we don't know what the history is, and they're either expecting us to, like Steve said, make too many assumptions based on source material, but we're in a different universe, so, and they've changed some things, so we can't be sure of what, like, before that Batgirl DLC, we didn't really know anything about what Barbara Gordon was like pre-Oracle. I mean, like, just we're not, and all of the background we get are through, a lot of it is flashbacks to things Batman wasn't actually there for, and so then some of it's a little bit unreliable. I mean, I realize that some of it's because he has a video that Joker gave him, but like when tell me if I'm wrong about this, when they're reenacting Barbara Gordon getting shot and losing her legs, the Killing Joke thing. It's kind of up to anybody's I guess how it actually went down.
Yeah.
Because Batman wasn't actually there for that. And it's not the real Joker in his head. And at the time that we're seeing that, that's got my brain going and wondering if somehow or rather Joker's actual consciousness or memories or something are in Batman. But by the end of the day, that's not what it is.
Well, yeah, that's what I was talking about, the inconsistency with the Joker infection thing. Like it seems to be like literally with Henry Adams, the old guy who was infected with the Joker blood, who was kind of turning into the Joker, and holding, who was it? He was holding hostage in that scene. I can't remember.
Was it Robin?
Yeah, it was probably. Yeah, it had to have been Robin. And he was trying to, because he was working with Harley, right? He was trying to get back with Harley and all that jazz. That just it seemed like a weird thing. Like, I mean, I understand the Joker infection and maybe making them go crazy or something like that, but they literally seem to. It's like almost like an Assassin's Creed thing where it's like a genetic memory thing going on, which doesn't fully make sense. Outside of just saying it's a mutation from the infection that the Joker had, and since the Joker's blood, blah 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 blah, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it doesn't fully make sense with all that stuff. Regarding the Red Hood stuff, though, I mean, Damian, I probably would have been happier with Damian. I mean, they could have just explained that. I mean, because they already show that Batman and Talia had a very clear connection, to the point where he was going for Talia over saving Arkham City. At the time, and at the end of Arkham City, so I mean, and he just didn't know he had a child with her, and they could have easily explained that, and I think I would have been a lot happier with that.
You would have, if they did that, they would have essentially just been doing the heretic stuff from Batman Incorporated, since that's a grown-up Damian clone. Yeah, that would have been all right, considering how much Ra's al Ghul seems to bookend these games, like with the Season of Infamy and Arkham City.
Yeah. It might have been better than the kind of than the revenge motive that we have. I mean, I almost said generic revenge motive, but see, that's why it's awkward, because he has good reason to hate Batman, and potentially. And one of the things that drives me crazy about it is that I feel like his and Scarecrow's methods are kind of reversed. Or maybe they both should just be the same, because the whole game Arkham Knight is begging Scarecrow to just let him kill him, and he just wants him dead. But then why all the poetic justice stuff? He's really. I'm so confused as I'm playing through it before I get to the end, because he seems like he just wants to walk up to Batman and shoot him in the head, and I'm like, well, you know where he lives. Why didn't you do that? And I can't help but see, I would totally buy it. I don't know why they wrote it that way, because I would totally buy it if both he and Scarecrow wanted to psychologically torture Batman. That's all it had to be.
The way he was psychologically tortured.
Yeah, exactly. But he's just
not now.
Yeah,
not Arkham Knight.
But then there's other places where Arkham Knight is like is like, no, not yet, and then he is being patient and taking his time, and I don't get that. And then it just feels like we're stringing things along because we got to have a really big game. Like, it's got that almost Power Ranger thing of places where the bad guy kind of runs off just so that we can have more story.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works. I mean, sometimes it's, you know, Batman. Like, I'm okay with the bits where Batman like has captured him, but then he starts to hallucinate, and you get that one moment where he starts to hallucinate, and now he's the Joker, and then Red Hood's ran off, and so now we got to have more game. Like, that's okay. I mean, sometimes the timing is convenient, but
yeah. I really, some of the hallucination stuff is amazing. Like, just the general imagery, like, forget about the story, general imagery, Batman holding a gun with all the Jokers around him, that shot is amazing. And it just on top of everything we haven't really talked about it, graphically, next-gen Batman, this is a gorgeous game.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
It is beautiful. Gotham has never felt so tactile, and with the rain and just flying around Gotham, it is gorgeous. Neon lights everywhere. The blimps that you actually get to go into this time, obviously different kind of blimps, but it's the most fleshed out Gotham that we've seen in any of the games, and I very much appreciate the attention to detail and artistry that went into that.
You know, talking about the horror imagery and stuff, I complain a lot in horror movies where you'll have really cheap jump scares. One of my favorite things in this game were jump scares. I can't help it. Bits where you turn around and you can't figure out where you're supposed to go, and then it won't let you use gadgets and things, and you're like, oh no, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
And the anticipation builds. And then anytime you turn around and something has changed, where like there was a door there and now there's a wall, or there's a character there that wasn't there before, that stuff, I ate that stuff for breakfast. Every time it had, like, it was a gimmick, it was a novelty, I don't care. Every time it happened, whether it made sense or not, I loved it. Every time. It was so much fun.
That's the difference between watching a movie and interacting with something. I mean, I think... Like, horror games are huge because it's a different experience than going to see a horror movie. Yes, there are jump scares, but you are the one triggering those jump scares. You are frightened to go around a corner and stuff like that. In a movie, it's just happening. It's a passive experience.
Yeah, and the timing is somewhat up to you. So you'll walk up to something and you'll be, I know something's gonna come get me, but I don't know when it's gonna happen. And yeah, because you could wait all day and then take that one step it takes.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about, like, games that have, like, scary parts in them and, like, horror movies. It's like when you're watching a horror movie and you see a character going down, like, a dark hallway to, like, a door, and you're, like, in your head, you're like, well, this is a guaranteed way for you to get killed. Like, you are going to die this way. And then in this game, and in all sorts of horror games, like, you're watching it, and you are that person that's moving forward, even though you know you're going into dangerous places. Like, you know that it's happening, but you are that stupid person in the horror movie when you play a horror game.
And you're also not expendable, so you know you're not going to die, or you're going to get a lot of chances.
Yeah.
And so you'll go in there, and so now I think part of the difference too, Asko, is that that person's just going to die. You actually have to prepare yourself to deal with something. Like, I mean, part of the anticipation is I gotta get my buttons ready. I'm gonna have to do something.
My hands are really sweaty, and they're gonna start slipping around the controller.
Rasco, give me another couple questions if you would.
Carl Maxey says, "What do you think of Batman finding out Joker's fear?"
Boy, I need to noodle that some more. I because the problem is it's not. Is it the Joker's fear, or is it Batman's interpretation of it, or is it this kind of Joker that he has created in his head that has now manifested and evolved itself? Right? Like, that probably is the Joker's biggest fear. But now the thing I really like about it is that it's actually Batman and Joker's fear both together, which enhances that idea that they are in some ways the same thing in this really twisted way. But like. The Batman, Batman doesn't want to be the Batman. Batman doesn't want to be forgotten either. It's very important to him that legacy would live on. And the Joker has the same thing, but for opposite reasons. One needs the order to live on, and one needs the chaos to. It's an idea I like a lot. The way it's implemented, again, is awkward because it's not the actual Joker.
Yeah, I mean, I have trouble not interpreting it as just Batman getting over his own fear, not necessarily the Joker's. Like, I thought the whole idea of it by the end is just Batman's too afraid of what people think he is, and so he manifests that as the Joker needing to be relevant. So Batman stops being vain about it and just decides to trust his nature, that Poison Ivy line over and over again that we get in the game.
Right.
And so it's more about Batman finding a way to expel the fear through the Joker, because the Joker's actually dead now and he can let it go, as opposed to it being the actual Joker's fear.
I agree.
And in that way, it is kind of fun that you're playing as the Joker when that happens, because you're being physically one of Batman's other great fears, which is that he actually is the Joker, and then you kind of end up destroying yourself, that Joker side of Batman, while trying to destroy Batman. The statues were a cool touch.
Yeah,
because Joker is like I didn't even get a statue, and then there's all these Batmans. I love that.
Well, and also it's really symbolic of the Batman being unchanging, like a statue.
Yeah.
Like Joker is literally trying to fight this statue, this thing that will not change.
I might give DanzNewz a hand. That was really good analysis there, sir. Well done. I didn't think of that one. Well, that was really good.
I do really like the dichotomy of the fear aspect all the way around, with the Scarecrow trying to play on Batman's fears, and literally it kind of happens to work out, and Scarecrow said, Scarecrow doesn't know this stuff is happening. Like, this is literally something left over from Arkham City. It just happens to be helping out. Otherwise, he would have taken down Scarecrow so much faster. But I just like
that's a really good point you're making.
But I mean, it's still like, I mean, and I don't know. Sometimes I can forgive contrivances for something that is just creatively lighting up in my head. Like I love going through it. I love the idea of Batman having this internal struggle that happens to connect with the overall narrative of Scarecrow trying to break him in fear and all that jazz. I ate it up.
A lot of the ideas are really, really solid. I question whether the characters are as real as they are to me in the previous games. Is kind of my whole thing with that, Dan. But obviously these guys are thinking. These guys seem to be as fascinated by the psychology of Batman as we are, and the reverence is right there on the screen. So I mean, I can't knock them for that stuff, because I mean, like you said, a lot of it. The thing is, I can't say it's not thought-provoking, because it's provoking thought. We're talking a lot.
It comes down to execution, really. It just came down to their execution.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more because part of the problem is that we talk about none of these things being set up in the other Arkham games. I think part of the problem is just these guys really love Batman in general, but they don't know what they've made, so they don't know how to bookend this quote-unquote trilogy that was never intended to be a trilogy.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Batman before they're ending Arkham Batman.
It's a creative process thing where it's really hard to come in and do the third game, excluding Origins. I don't know why I'm excluding Origins. Origins always gets shafted, but like if you exclude that game, it's really hard to come into like a trilogy that's been building that someone else has been making, because you don't know what the creative process was when they were making that game, the story for that game. You don't know what they were thinking and what they were trying to do necessarily unless you speak to them, and even then you're still not that person. It's really hard to kind of emulate the thought process of someone else when you're making a story.
But also remember that a piece should stand on its own. So regardless of what they intended or what they were thinking, or even if you could have an extensive conversation with them, it either the thing either feels like it organically kept going from where it was before and works together as a cohesive piece, as a big trilogy, if that's what they wanted to be, or it doesn't. For you, the viewer, it is that we're talking about. It's interesting how this game is kind of the anti-Dark Knight Rises, in that it wants to end Batman, but it's not about a Batman who wants to quit. It's actually exactly the opposite. He's kind of afraid to quit. He's afraid that he'll have to, but he's also afraid that he shouldn't have done this in the first place and kept going. And it does somewhat have that in common with Nolan Batman. And I think some of that is just trying to set it apart from Dark Knight Rises. It doesn't want to do exactly the same thing, because it could have gotten to the end, and then he gets to be Bruce Wayne, but somewhere else or whatever, and it doesn't do that because that would have just been ripping off Rises. So instead, and these games are not going to want to have the super happy ending, and I do appreciate that it didn't try to go to some kind of a really sappy place with that. But maybe now would be a really good time to talk about that ending in the Nightfall Protocol thing, and how I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people try to explain it to me, and saying Batman's taking Scarecrow's fear toxin and kind of going back to making Batman that legend more so than an actual physical being. I don't know. It's cool visually, but I just don't fully understand what's going on there. I guess it's just the legend of the Bat will live on.
That may be what's going on. That would be the best guess, I think, but there's not enough there to tell me that's definitely what it is. It's certainly vague about it, and the question is it the kind of ambiguous ending that is really satisfying and where you can kind of read it one way or another? No, I don't think it's ambiguous. I mean, it is ambiguous, but I don't think it's ambiguous as in it could be a couple things. I think it's just it's some random imagery, and I don't know what exactly is it. Anything could be happening.
It's vague before it's ambiguous. Artistically, the idea is, I think, that Batman kept being held back by what he's afraid of. He keeps getting armored up. He keeps putting on shields and therefore making himself bigger and bigger and bigger and more visible. And by the end, he lets all of that go. So now he's just the Bat. He's just the natural personification of everything Batman's supposed to represent. Cool. I get that thematically. But literally, if I'm in that situation, what is actually going on?
Yeah, it just leaves you off with a big old question mark. It's not like one of those, oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, it was that. I guess that was kind of it, but it was just more so just what was that? All right.
If
that's
I'm
the end of the
game, it happened in front of me, I don't know what's going on.
I just spent 4 hours fighting all the Riddler trophies.
What does that mean?
And what did he learn exactly? Is my big question, because it seemed like the idea was that Batman's got to learn how to. And I had a lot of people sent me early comments and asked us to tackle this, and a lot of people were saying, wasn't the idea that, I agree with this, that Batman has to learn to take help from his friends, and that he's and just get over these insecurities of you weren't really controlling these people, you didn't force them into this war, they all had their own motivations for doing that, and you just inspired them. The difference being between inspire and manipulation, and Arkham Knight and Scarecrow are manipulators, and Batman is an inspirer, and so by the end of the game, it seemed like where we had gotten is and Barbara Gordon has a line toward the end that kind of just comes right out and spells this out, where she's like, Batman, you're Bruce, you're not making me do anything. I'm doing this of my own accord. Just let me go my own way. And then you get to the end, you have the Nightfall Protocol, and I think we can all agree that he blew his own house up. I think we can all agree that that's what the Nightfall Protocol was.
He blew up his neighbor's house. That was the I'll distract them from Bruce Wayne by blowing up my neighbor's house. Then the news coverage will be over there.
I think it is, by the way, absolutely ridiculous that people were even thinking that Bruce Wayne was murdered. Like in the game, or or maybe some people would, but the people weren't guessing that he did it on purpose to himself, because
Alfred left the gas on. Alfred left the gas on. That's all it was.
That's really convenient timing, because he maybe not, but he very dramatically flies his bat plane. Why was he so dramatic about it?
Nowhere else to park it.
That was hilarious. But so he blows up his own mansion, and I think the idea is probably supposed to be that now he doesn't, his friends don't have to worry about people coming after them and stuff because nobody's gonna be able to find the Batcave or whatever. And then the question would be, well, would the Bat family continue on after him or whatever? And then you get to the very, very end of it, and it seems like Batman just working by himself, but as a wraith or something, if that actually is Batman. And I don't know that he learned anything, because you got that line from Gordon where he's like, Batman's war kept escalating, and it was affecting us, and it made things worse, and now things are peaceful because he stopped. And then
you have DLC where Robin is still taking down Two-Face and stuff like that afterwards, so that kind of just contradicts that aspect of.
Contradicts that.
Kind of.
Yeah. So and then of course it doesn't completely stop, because then there's the question of, well, he's like, if no one's afraid of anything, then how do we stop them? And so then of course you still need Batman, but the problem is, wouldn't it have to be in a different way? And I mean, I guess the idea is, well, if we can convince people it's supernatural, then we don't have escalation. But that doesn't make any sense, because people thought he was an urban legend and weren't sure if he was human, and that was still happening. So wouldn't he just keep causing the same problems that he arguably caused in the first place?
Especially if he's already worried about it. Like, he's verbalizing in all the games, have I created these issues? And then he just keeps going. He never solves that.
So that's the issue I had with that ending. Without it, it's
about being
more
Batman
okay.
anymore, but he still doesn't understand what Batman's repercussions are.
No, and he doesn't know how to rely on people.
Yeah.
Because part of the point was he can't do this alone, I thought.
Yeah, that's what I assumed for a while.
He gets saved in various places where he couldn't get through. He couldn't get through a place without help, and he needs Arkham Knight at the end.
As a game mechanic, you cannot get past certain levels without help.
What I wish had been done with it was have something in the background with Red Hood, with Jason Todd, about how Batman didn't trust him, and that's what led to what happened to him with the Joker. Like, we don't have enough backstory about what exactly the situation is. In this universe, we don't even know how much of a hothead Jason Todd was. We don't even know if he was going around murdering people and stuff. Like,
that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also confused about, was Jason Todd the Robin at the time of Arkham Asylum? Do we know if there even was a Robin at that time?
I think Robin was first introduced in City. Like,
Okay.
first,
and he's
first
Tim Drake there,
verbalized it.
and Nightwing was already around. So yeah, and that wasn't very. That was what, like a year or two after. I forget with the graphic novel, but like a year or two after Asylum. So my guess, Rasco, is that Jason Todd was well before that, because we have a couple lines in this that tell us that Bruce Wayne has been at this for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these games minus Origins could have happened within like a 3-4 year time span. So I would assume Jason Todd is going back, well before that. And so then you do have sort of a Rises situation where you have somebody that Batman, whose life he affected well early on, that for years has been planning something.
Yeah. I think it was just 6 months after City, right, for Arkham Knight? I believe.
Yeah.
In the intro, they explain the time
So
gap.
then it's probably even less than 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 6 months. I'm sure there's an infographic somewhere with the timeline.
I haven't read like any of the comics, so I'm not sure like if those things answer those questions, or if Robin shows up in anything from Arkham Asylum or City or Night or those things.
And that gets sticky, because I have heard that some of it has been decanonicized, and some
really?
of it's.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know how true that is. I don't know where. A couple of our viewers told me that, and I don't know where they got that information, so I have no source for this. But I heard that like some of. So like I said, I have no source and no credibility. but
Word on the street.
The word on the street is some of Arkham Unhinged is not in canon anymore. But like Endgame. Somebody told me Endgame is not actually in canon, which sucks, because that's one of the cooler books in it. But I don't know.
That's confusing.
Yeah, it's very confusing. But who knows? Whatever. Hopefully, at least the prequel comic to Arkham City is still canon, because it's really good. But
I guess it has to be, right? Because that's written by Paul Dini, and there's several things in the game that reference that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about DLC and about some of the other fun things that are not necessarily... Well, actually, the Arkham stuff, too, because we didn't talk about the Harley Quinn pack, and yes, too short, yes, not a lot of, important story stuff there, but that was disappointing to me because I enjoyed it so much it was only like 20 minutes. I thought that one was really fun. And
the combat, the gameplay as her was pretty fun. Like I liked her insanity vision. I guess that's kind of the problem you run into with the detective vision is you have to kind of have that element for the other characters. So for her, it was specifically just her seeing things written on the wall because she's crazy.
And now she has but it's more than that because now that she has a now it's like a superpower, right? Because she also still can tell you how many people are in a room.
Yeah.
And because it'll say 12 little piggies, and I loved that. But like that, I don't know, it was really twisted and creepy, and I thought that stuff was fantastic. But yeah, she'll see things written on the. I especially like the one on the pipe that said something along the lines of "Oh no, I'm alone now." Some of that stuff was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
and
little
I
elements
like
that are really good. Like little elements that.
You blow up stuff with a Jack in the Box, and
yeah,
that was all super fun. But I could have, I don't know, you could make a Harley Quinn game. She's popular enough. If Deadpool could have a game, Harley Quinn could have a game, and do it just like that, except maybe tweak the Detective Vision thing, because it doesn't make any sense that she would have that. But I want to mention one of the most irritating things to me in playing some of the DLC, especially in the driving courses and the Predator missions, and that is constantly having to compete with Steve Baxi, because
thank God I don't have him on. He's not on my friends list, so I don't have to.
He's on my friends list. And there's constantly a timestamp telling me how fast frickin' Steve did it.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
And I am kicking myself in the teeth trying to beat Steve's times. And he's too damn good. I haven't beat him on anything yet.
It doesn't do that to me. It doesn't tell me if any of my friends have beaten my score. I guess maybe because they haven't.
Yeah, that's probably because your scores are better than theirs, and so they're not giving you a score to beat because you've already beaten it without knowing it. I went into the Predator mission for Wayne Manor, which, by the way, am I correct that there's no other way to get to Wayne Manor besides just playing that Predator? I hate that because what they built was really cool.
Yeah, and that's the same thing they used for Arkham Origins as well, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay. It's at first I thought it was just one big room, and then there's like side rooms, and it's pretty big. And
yeah, it's cool. It's got like little Batman Easter eggs, like in the vents. Batman's got gadgets and stuff like that.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that. I'm surprised you found that stuff.
Cool.
I'm surprised you found anything like that, considering how freaking fast you took everybody out in that. He did that in like a minute 40, and I couldn't do it any faster than like 2 minutes, and I felt like a complete moron. And then this morning, I spent about half an hour, Steve, trying to beat you on the 60s Batman tracks.
I didn't do those very well though. Like I was scratching into things.
I got you within like 12 seconds on one of them, but those are so freaking cool.
I love them. They're great.
I think they could get away with doing a whole Batmobile driving game, be it a racing game or just a mission thing. They'd be kind of nuts if they didn't put that out, because I think they could totally be pretty successful with it.
Oh yeah, I definitely play that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yes.
And then also you can switch up some of the, because we have lots of cool skins. Like my favorite one to use is your Batmobile with the 70s Batman skin. But instead of doing that, you can just literally put the 70s Batmobile into the game and drive that. That'd be fantastic.
Rasco, we got about 20 minutes or so. How about some more questions, sir?
Okay, does anyone, this is from Shood Sack. Does anyone think Batman Arkham City should have been the last, as they sort of wrote themselves into a corner? I'd say no.
Yeah, I say no too. After having played, I just feel like what's done story-wise could have been done a lot more effectively. I think there was definitely more places to go, and doing the game where Batman finally has to change I don't know. I think in this series that needed to happen.
Yeah, I think you have to do the game about what happens after Joker dies. I think like that's the most important aspect of Joker's death is that it's not that he's dead, it's that what's the world going to be like afterwards. As
How does it
like the Batman.
I'm sorry, Dan. I talked over you, man.
Huh? I said something?
You look like you were about to say something, and I was talking. And anyway, go ahead.
I can't. I don't even know what I was going to say. Well, I was going to change the conversation at some point, or change the topic.
Well, I just want to hear you weigh in on this. Do you think that that at least story-wise that we needed this game, or that it should have ended in City? Did they write themselves into a corner?
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, I'm along with you guys on that whole thing. I mean, I thought, yeah, the game has some shortcomings, but there are far more excellent aspects that outweigh anything that's really negative. My outlook on this game is totally positive. So, yes, there should have been more. And there was! We played it! It was awesome.
And we talked about it 6 months later! By the way, I saw somebody early on, probably somebody that hasn't watched one of these Spoilercasts before, ask if we were actually going to play the game today or just talk about it. And I think all me and Steve and Dan have all done playthrough videos on this, and I'm still getting mine out right now. But you can listen to each of us talk about the game and jump around if you want to do that. But we wanted to have just a discussion about it. How about some more questions, Rasco?
Okay, this is from Soundwave71. How would you guys feel if both old Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were used for Batman to narrow down who the Arkham Knight could possibly be?
I mean, I don't know if it would have helped.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have any... I question even the name Arkham Knight. Like, it...
Yeah. It doesn't make sense that he would take on that moniker, really.
Well,
just because the game's got to have something to do with Arkham.
Yeah.
Wasn't Jason Todd in Arkham Asylum? I think he said. Like,
is that where the Joker took him? Because
they did have a shoehorned explanation as to why. It just still doesn't make sense. It was just a shoehorned explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little cheap.
Like a natural name.
But I do really appreciate that the final showdown is in Arkham Asylum. That we go there. Well, not really a final, but that we go there at the end. I got excited about that when we actually go to the asylum.
Yeah.
You can't finish this up and not do that. And I like that it wasn't just a hallucination. I mean, we had it. Now, I wish that post that we could go back and explore it.
Yes. Yeah. If you look from the island, if you look out in the ocean, you can see the island of Arkham Asylum.
As giant as this game is, and maybe it's just too big, where you couldn't get away with that, but I would have loved that one of the ways you're rewarded at the end is to then get to go do stuff in Arkham City and Arkham Asylum and have the entire world open.
See, that would have been a good way to
Maybe
bring
that's asking too much. But...
fast travel system, the Batwing, of just flying to the areas that are now cut off from the mainland.
Yeah, because isn't it weird that was so big that it felt the need to have the fast travel system, but then this game is bigger and it doesn't?
Yeah.
Need that?
Well, they're trying to give you the excuse to use the Batmobile.
To use the Batmobile, yeah, exactly. And you know what? I feel like a ponce because you guys are like, oh, I don't even drive the Batmobile anymore, and I keep using it.
Well, I mean, I do use it, especially now that I'm past 100%. You can do I'm driving around the Batman v Superman Batmobile. It's a little bit clunkier and less, with the actual Batmobile from the game, you can do the left trigger and actually kind of strategically move around. It's a lot easier to fix yourself if you get messed up. But I find myself just more so driving in the other Batmobiles more so, like riding around in the Tumbler. And
I think the one that handles best is the 60s car.
I haven't driven around in that yet.
60s car is good. I think the what's it called, the original Arkham Batmobile, because it's so much smaller.
I haven't played with that one. I haven't done that one yet.
Yeah, I've driven around in that a little bit. It's definitely shrunken down. I can't remember what the description is when you go to pick it, but it was somewhat belittling of that car, and I can't remember what it was. It's like Back to Basics or something like that.
Some of those descriptions are so funny. I mean, like I said, you can see the reverence and the love for this material.
Yeah.
my favorite is with the Batman v Superman car. Do you speed? You will.
I did not see that description, but that's hilarious.
That cracked me up. Some of those are wonderful, and then like the tumbler, it comes in black, and I don't know, they love that stuff. It's wonderful, and I also love that in a game this dark, we're embracing the '60s Batman and stuff, and I can't stop using the '89 skin.
That's a really good.
Gorgeous. Something we haven't really covered at any point was the death of Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
What did we think of that?
Oh.
It's good thematically. I mean, I'm with Steve. I love the nature line. I'm with you there. But Alfred's whole she showed her humanity at the end is nonsense. Because she did it for plants, right?
Yeah.
Like, she didn't do it because she cares about people now. I thought it was really cool to utilize her that way. And there's this, you got a nature versus nurture thing with internally, but you've also got this nature versus technology thing. You got a man versus nature thing. And I wish that had been explored more thematically, because it's kind of just there. And the Arkham Knight is using drones and stuff for no other reason than that iconography is really timely, and so we have somebody using really sophisticated military technology in this game for no real reason except it's now. 24 did it. We got to do it too. At all. But anyway, I don't know. What did you guys think of that? Of Poison Ivy? Dan?
I brought up the question. Steve?
Pretty much what Cap said. If you go back to the playthrough that Cap did where he gets to Poison Ivy, I left like a pretty sizable comments explaining what I thought of the nature line. And I like that. It's just like what Cap said, it's not naturally integrated.
Cut naturally.
Yeah. Pun totally intended.
I like
10 minutes. Sorry.
10 minutes.
Good.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
I liked the redeeming nature at the end. I mean, she's been kind of like almost like Catwoman, where she's kind of been back and forth and not totally full on. She's not one of the super harmful bad guys sometimes. And there seems to be somewhat of a respect between her and Batman, and sometimes truces can be drawn. And I did like the aspect of her helping and in the end, sacrificing herself for what she believed in. I thought it was well handled and handled with the kind of gravitas that that moment required, and it gave me goosebumps. I didn't tear up or anything, but it was a very theatrical moment that I quite enjoyed, and it made sense.
That's a great cluster for this game, right? Like, even if the story falters by the end, it's really epic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, just in certain scenes.
The cloudburst was terrifying.
Yeah, the cloudburst is horrifying. It's really, really epic, even in replays.
Yeah, that's a scary idea, and it's scary just looking at it and seeing the impact, seeing these people like choking on the streets and going crazy, and
the thing about the cloudburst, it reminded me. Have you guys ever played the Spider-Man 2? Or no, it's the PlayStation Spider-Man video game.
Oh
yeah. In that, you're on the city like building tops. And,
and it's always the clouds at the bottom of the city.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is it.
That's hilarious. And you're just grappling around, just like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, do you think, because I just thought of this, that we had a bit of a missed opportunity with Catwoman, because you have this nature versus nurture thing, and you and I were talking in comments about the idea that we're talking about what a person's true nature is versus what they're afraid they are, and ultimately at the end Batman proves his humanity because that's just who he is, and of course Joker isn't that, and then you look at each of these guys and you can see what their actual nature is and how it wins out, and so Jason Todd is really a good person at heart or whatever, but Catwoman's always straddled the fence, and if the chips were down, I couldn't tell you which direction she would necessarily go. That's a missed opportunity.
Thing to explore in her DLC, which was like 15 minutes long and didn't know.
I haven't played that one.
The central question, right?
Yeah. So that should have been there. She is the midpoint of all of that. She could have been essential.
Would they not have, like, I mean, they already kind of covered that with Arkham City, where it came down to where the chips are down, and you had the choice. And every single time I played that, I always chose to save Batman, but more like one of my more recent playthroughs of that game, I
forgot that you could pick.
You could actually choose to not save him, and then the credits would start rolling, and the game would be over. So you did literally have that choice in the last game.
Oh, I completely
That's
forgot.
a great point. So maybe they didn't go there because they're thinking, well,
It's retreading.
We've done that already. Okay. Dan, thank you so much for bringing that up.
Well, that's why all three of us, or all four of us, are here to.
I
correct each other.
withdraw.
I don't remember that.
I withdraw what I thought was a brilliant idea.
Before we close out, I do want to mention
Yeah.
one thing, just to see what everyone thinks of the voice acting. Because
Yeah.
I think it's really inconsistent. Scarecrow doesn't have any character, but the voice acting is great. Jason's good. Kevin Conroy, I think this should have been the game that told him we're not a good Batman. Because there were really, really bad line deliveries of really major moments with him. And I don't know, it annoys me that he's doing animated movies, he got the new Justice League show. He doesn't sound like Batman anymore. He just sounds like a gravelly old man.
I just thought he sounded really inconsistent, and you know, sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's really strange, and I couldn't decide if they were putting any kind of digital effect on it, because it kept sounding unnaturally deep in places. It was really strange. It was almost like they were trying to make him sound older or more hardened, but he's like in his mid-50s, or I'm not sure how old Kevin Conroy is. Like, he already sounds like an older Batman. You don't have to do anything to the voice. And there were just places where he's like, bruh. And I'm just like,
It's a little Clint Eastwoody, isn't it?
That's all right.
It's a little Clint Eastwoody, isn't it? It's a little bit like that.
Yeah, but it's almost like that, but then with like the effect I did in Spawn here put on it, and it's just like
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's kind of like
that.
them going through and post-processing Christian Bale's voice for Dark Knight, where they added like Tiger or whatever along with his they synthesized his Batman voice.
But at least that they did all the way through, whether you think it's silly or not. This, it was only like, 15-20% of the time. It was really strange.
Yeah.
It's really boring when you get to the end of the Two-Face stuff and he says, like, I'm sorry, Harvey, and it's the worst delivery of I'm sorry, Harvey I've ever heard.
I don't know. I have my rose-tinted glasses. I can't really critique Kevin Conroy's voice performance, but
Mass Sci-Fi Fan wanted to ask us about the I Am Vengeance, I Am the Night line, and I didn't mind that it was there. I thought doing, ending it here and culminating and all of that, and versus, and especially because I can't help but compare this to Nolan Batman because they're both trilogies now, and we're ending Batman in this like we were in Rises, but in a different way. This is a Batman that's more on the vengeance side, so I don't mind that the lines are there. But the line delivery was weird. I mean, like Kevin Conroy, that is the line that you're most remembered for. And
well, that's what he does all the time too. He does
I'm
it
not
every
saying you
time
have
he
to.
can.
Does he? Okay,
Well, I mean, in a lot of videos I've seen him do, like with just people filming him.
that makes it weirder. That makes it weirder because I'm not saying you got to deliver it exactly the same way that every time, Kevin Conroy, but it was just a really strange delivery, and it seemed like it was supposed to be the kind of the big line, and I don't know. They used the wrong take. That's all I'm saying.
It's kind of sad because at this point he's just kind of hurting his legacy. Like, he's so great in animated series, and the more he recycles some of those lines, the less they work. I think at some point he needs to acknowledge that he became definitive Batman for a good number of people. It's time to walk away.
Yeah.
I want to mention my favorite voice in all of these games, which is the Riddler. Because that's why can't I think of his name right now? That's Wally Wingert, and Wally Wingert has voiced him in every game, and he's gotten, because they always do the Riddler trophy thing, because that's just a really easy way to give you extra stuff to go around and try to find. So he's been in every game, and I think he's one of the only voice actors that's been in every game and had that much time. Like, he's probably fifth or sixth on the list of most dialogue. In the games, and he gives a really consistent performance, and he's not phoning it in, and he's always having a really good time with it, and I love his take on the Riddler. I think it's one of the better ones.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love it. Right?
I thought for the newer cast, Jonathan Banks as Gordon was. I mean, I love Jonathan Banks, and he plays Mike in Breaking Bad, and Mike's my favorite character.
Mike Ehrmantraut!
Mike Ehrmantraut. He's my favorite character in that series, and when they announced him as Gordon, I was like, oh yes, 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 yes. And I thought he was really great. I thought the story stuff with Gordon was a little. I liked where they went with it, and I liked the. I don't know. I just felt like compared to all the other voice actors who have done Gordon throughout the series, which is like Gordon's always been a generally marginalized character outside of Origins. But even then, it was just kind of. But this time around, he gave it a lot more soul, and like I was saying before, gravitas. Like there was that element that really his voice was perfectly Gordon, just weathered old Gordon. That was great. As opposed to jacked up Gordon from Asylum.
Yeah, he's just a thug in that game.
Batman! Joker's gone! Follow my cigar trail!
Man, I wish we had a lot more time because there's a bunch of stuff that's coming to my head that we haven't really talked about. We didn't talk about the. I thought of this while you were talking about Gordon. We didn't talk about the fake Batgirl death and how super cheap I thought that was. I don't know. Like I feel like you can do anything you want to, and you're gonna like it's the end of it, and
you're gonna fake stuff. And
you're gonna and like I guess it's the Crisis thing where we're only allowed to kill one character anyone's heard of. So we killed off Poison Ivy, and so now it's okay. And like it works to a degree narratively because that's one. I feel like the game is making a big deal out of like the three big things Batman's most afraid of, and we talked about two of them. The third one is he's afraid of getting people that he cares about killed, and so he thinks she's died. But that is so awkward when you go back and replay it once you know where things have gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's like any movie that has that kind of twist to it. It's just like, oh, they're not any repeat viewing.
And it's so convenient. The way Batman is hallucinating in that scene, and then I'm not sure like how much of it is a hallucination and how much of it is Scarecrow faking a death, and I'm not sure what all.
Yeah, again, that's another unintentional Scarecrow looking out with the Joker being inside Batman's head.
But if memory serves, doesn't Scarecrow like know that Batman thinks she's dead and plays with that and makes a big deal out of how she's dead? But then it seems to also be in Batman's head because Joker does the shoot himself in the head thing, and I don't know. Yeah. Hey guys, Steve's got to get going. Steve, say bye.
Yep. See everybody.
Bye, Steve.
Bye, Steve. We'll go ahead and wrap up. But I felt like I would feel remiss if we didn't bring that up.
Yeah, it just seemed to like it's never explained, but how specific can Scarecrow's serums be? Like, how does he know at all what's going on with these people that he is manipulating? Obviously, they're going to see something they're afraid of, but how does he know that he saw Barbara die? And it's
to be fair, he is standing there in the scene talking about it because he calls up Gordon.
So it's suggestion and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so I didn't think of this. I guess that's not part of the hallucination because we know that throughout the rest of the game until we get to where she's alive, that Alfred thinks she's dead because he just called him up and mentioned it. So I guess Scarecrow could be is probably listening to that. That must be what it is. Because the thing is, even if he could usually somehow or rather tell you exactly what you would hallucinate based on a psychological profile or something, it's also fear gas mixed in with Joker blood. So then it would be totally unpredictable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, well, we're going to have to go ahead and wrap up. We are all out of time. Dan, any final thoughts? Anything you want to just make sure you get to say that we haven't
Something I had forgotten earlier about gameplay stuff. I really enjoyed the dual fights that you could do when you were either Nightwing or Batman or Catwoman and Batman or whatever. I enjoyed that gameplay aspect. I forgot to mention that earlier when we were talking about gameplay stuff. Nothing really crazy. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about.
Rasco, thanks a lot for joining us and helping us out.
You're welcome as always.
I appreciate you, buddy. Everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. Thanks for making it in a weird midday Sunday time. We had a really great turnout, and we sure appreciate you guys. Sorry we didn't get to more of the questions, but thanks to everybody that we did talk to for helping us facilitate the conversation. Rasco and I and Steve and the rest of the Crisis panel will be back with you tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time to talk about all of the comic book and superhero TV shows from last week. So come back and join us for that. And Dan, thanks a bunch for taking the time out and doing it with me.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me, and I implore anybody who enjoyed this that hasn't seen our other podcast, that Spoilercast that we've done on Arkham Knight and well, not Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins and Arkham City. Those are from way back when, and they're fun. Listen, I go back and listen to them every once in a while too. So
this has become something of a tradition for Dan and I.
It really has. It's been since 2012. So.
Oh, it's nuts. I mean, I guess it's a tradition, and this is the third one. Still, like, now we have a pattern. Now, there's 3 now. But Dan and I always look forward to these, and it was weird that it took this long, but I'm glad that we finally got it done. And also, I meant to say this while Steve was here, but Dan and I and Steve are doing commentaries for the Nolan movies, and we did one for Begins a while back, back in what, November, December, and yeah, December, we're gonna do the next one, Dark Knight, in the not too distant future. Hopefully, in the next couple weeks, we can get that together. So
definitely.
Folks, thanks so much for being here. DanzNewz subscribers that came in to check this out because Dan's here, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And to everybody else, we sure appreciate you guys. I am Captain Logan, and this was DanzNewz.
Bye.
And our official chat moderator, Jackson Rasco.
Peace out.
And once again, join us tonight for Crisis, and thanks again for being here.